Your quest has driven you to the horrific and warped land of the abyss. The terrain here makes no sense at all. Mountains become swamps, become frozen tundras, become blazing deserts. But no matter what, it's always dark, always twisted. All at once, the ground turns swampy again, but this isn't the swamp you're used to. This muck is made of dirt, bile, and blood. While it reeks of vomit and the metallic tang of blood, an even more horrifying sense that you can't identify. Looking around, you finally see what you came here for. A huge, misshapen, floating thing. Spewing bodily fluids everywhere, tainting the ground around it. It gurgles and retches horrifically, and the chains wrapped around it rattle and clank as it animates them to help it move along the ground. This, adventurers, is a Sibriex. Hail and well met, adventurers and dungeon masters alike. Welcome to episode 3 of my Menagerie of Monsters series. Today's monster is a whopper with a lot to unpack, so this video may be a bit longer than some of the previous ones in the series. Before we start, be sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on any of the content I have planned for the future. With that, let's jump into it. Today, as you no doubt have guessed, we're taking a look at the Sibriex from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. The Sibriex is an immensely powerful demon, and not only is it powerful in combat, but it's also powerful in roleplay as well, something that I very highly value in a monster. The biggest place that the Sibriex falls flat is just in terms of sheer amount of lore. There's not much written about it in Mordenkainen's tome, and frankly, there's just not much room. A quarter of its page alone is taken up by its massive, although pretty kick-ass artwork. All that's really given for lore about the Sibriex is that it's said that they are as old as the abyss itself. Well, this isn't much to go on. I think it really fits the Sibriex. The Sibriex is really supposed to be the embodiment of chaos, and while there's other demons that certainly embody that chaotic evil nature, their love of death and destruction, the Sibriex really takes that to a brand new level. It is very chaotic in its nature. Things around it, especially living things, can't even cope with its chaotic aura. Plants will wither and die. Creatures will find themselves warped beyond recognition. Perhaps it could even be that the first Sibriexes created the very abyss itself. The other major piece of lore given is, frankly, one of my favorite things about Sibriexes, and that is that they are lore masters. They are keepers of ancient secrets. They collect shattered fragments of knowledge, things that likely aren't even meant for mortal mind. Sibriex really has a kind of Lovecraftian feel to it to me, particularly if you go with that idea of them having created the abyss on their own by sheer power of thought. They really evoke the Lovecraftian god Azathoth, the blind idiot god, both in looks and in their role. In the Cthulhu mythos, Azathoth is this indescribable eldritch horror who lies sleeping in the depths of space. All the happenings of the universe are his dreams, and yet, despite that, he is unaware of everything that goes on in our universe. Hence why he is called the blind idiot god. The best description of him is similar to that of a Sibriex. Misshapen, warped, distorted, and truly alien. However, unlike Azathoth, the human mind actually can comprehend viewing a Sibriex. Another thing that adds to the atmosphere of a Sibriex is that it's constantly dripping blood and acidic bile, polluting the ground around it with its vile bodily fluids. The Sibriex moves similarly to a beholder, simply hovers in the air and moves around. Seems to be implied that they're lighter than air, as they're depicted as being chained to the ground, likely to prevent them from just floating away. The Sibriex is also known for creating new types of demons using its flesh warping abilities, something that's sort of their signature in the depths of the abyss. Speaking of those flesh warping abilities, let's move on to its game stats. When it comes to game statistics, the Sibriex is a powerhouse. It boasts a score higher than 20 in 4 different abilities: Constitution, Charisma, Intelligence, and Wisdom. Its dexterity, however, is woefully low at a measly 3, while its strength is average, sitting at a boring old 10. Even for a challenge rating 18 creature, it is truly a rare sight to see that many scores that are over 20. That challenge rating also brings with it an insanely high proficiency bonus, which, combined with its high ability modifiers, make the Sibriex a force to be reckoned with. It has proficiency in both intelligence and charisma saves, as well as in the skills of Arcana, History, and Perception. The Arcana and History proficiencies kind of play into its cosmic role as a keeper of ancient lore. Its Perception bonus of plus 13, a number shared with all of its other proficiencies, means that it is nearly impossible to surprise this thing. It will always notice you coming. For damage resistances, it has what you'd expect from a demon in 5th edition: cold, fire, lightning, as well as non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. It also has immunity to poison damage and the poisoned condition. It has 120 feet of true sight, making illusion and darkness spells useless against it, and it speaks every single language and has 120 feet of telepathy, making it impossible to talk behind this thing's back. As one might expect from a creature this powerful, it has 3 uses of legendary resistance, along with 3 legendary actions. It is unique in its legendary actions in that it can cast a spell using only 1 legendary action. Even something as powerful as a Lich or a Demi-Lich needs to use 2 legendary actions in order to cast a spell. Speaking of those spells, it can't cast many, but the ones that it can are very powerful. Notably, it can cast Feeble Mind 3 times a day, making it an absolute nightmare for casters, especially wizards. In addition, it can cast some very strong spells at will, giving it great battlefield control ability. In terms of damage, it is still a powerhouse. Its multi-attack gives it the ability to deal what I calculated as a maximum of 156 points of damage on a single turn. Of course, that is an optimistic best-case scenario, but even without that, if you chose to average its damage on its attacks, and all of its attacks hit, it could deal 95 damage just on one turn. It has 3 types of attack. It has its Bite, its Spiked Chains, and Squirt Bile. Squirt Bile is actually a saving throw based attack rather than making an attack roll. And with a DC of 20, it is an extremely hard roll to succeed on. It also has an action called Warp Creature, which gives the target levels of exhaustion, and if you use the variant on page 138 of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, there is a variant ability presented which gives us a D100 table of flesh warping effects, ranging from major benefits such as growing wings to major detriments such as being deaf. Additionally, under the Warp Creature effect, it states that if a target gains 6 levels of exhaustion as a result of this attack, rather than dying like they normally would, they are turned into a creature called an Abyssal Wretch, which is a very minor challenge rating 1/4 demon. There also seems to be some connection between the Sibriex and the far less powerful CR2 Rudderkin, as these 2 creatures are the only sources in 5th edition for Abyssal Wretch demons, the Rudderkin being able to turn creatures into an Abyssal Wretch via its Bite attack. Just to add insult to injury with the Sibriex, any creature standing within 30 feet of the Sibriex must succeed on a DC 20 Constitution save or take 4d6 poison damage. Succeeds on the save, it does become immune to that specific Sibriex's effect, but with a DC of 20, it is hard to succeed on. Role-playing a Sibriex can come as a bit of a challenge, simply because they are so truly alien. In truth, most demons are hard to roleplay because of their intense bloodlust and chaotic nature, but the Sibriex is sort of a progenitor of chaotic evil alignments, and being so ancient, it's hard to imagine how it would think with all the knowledge it has stored over the years. I imagine their age can perhaps make them a bit confused. Maybe despite their plus 13 to Arcana and History, they might get ancient knowledge jumbled up with other eldritch secrets that they have stored. That said, with their high mental stats, they are a powerful roleplay monster, particularly since they harbor so much ancient lore. Perhaps the party needs to destroy a mighty archdevil, but the only way to destroy his soul is known by but one ancient Sibriex in a remote tract of the abyss. They track it down, and upon asking the foul creature for its knowledge, something like this could ensue. The horribly warped demon looks at you through its swollen shut eyes, and its face contorts in as much disgust as it can muster.
I would give you anything, scum. I may despise the baptizo as much as any other being in the multiverse, but I would never been so low as to share my secrets with mortals such as yourselves. Unless perhaps one of you would be willing to become my subject. If one of you would sacrifice their soul and body to me, perhaps I would consider aiding the rest of you in your endeavor.
The Sibriex is a fantastic creature that, while a bit limited in terms of where your party could encounter it, it is still, in my opinion, one of the best creatures in all of 5th edition. From its raw power to its Lovecraftian style and truly sickening artwork, the Sibriex is a monster that even the most powerful and prepared parties must be wary of if they travel to the Abyss. It is versatile as well, working just as well as a final boss of a campaign as it does to an ancient genius NPC. I can definitely see a Sibriex being used as a recurring NPC, particularly in high-level play, and especially in an evil campaign. All in all, the Sibriex is not only one of my personal favorite D&D monsters, but it also is, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous and most terrifying. If you've ever encountered or used a Sibriex in one of your campaigns, tell me about it down in the comment section below. Also, if you have any ideas for what monsters I should cover in this series, leave a comment about that. I will try and read and respond to every single comment this video gets. With that, I bid you farewell, and may your adventuring days be many more.